All right. Welcome, everyone. We are getting started with tonight's live training. So I'm very happy to have you all in here. We're going to go over a lot of different stuff, and this stuff is very important to your real estate business. If you're new, never done real estate before, this is something that you definitely want to check out. This is something that you definitely want to learn about because it's going to help you make more money in a shorter amount of time without finding more deals, doing more deals. It's just going to help you. And especially if you're a wholesaler, this is going to be something that's very beneficial to you. You can use it with wholesaling. What we do is quick turn, which is a little bit more involved, but the numbers are much bigger. And it definitely works with quick turn. So we're going to get into it in just a second. So give me a second. Let me make sure I've got everything set up correctly, and then we'll be ready to get going. I hope everybody is doing well tonight. Good to see you. Good to see you. Okay, let's go ahead and get going. Seller mindset mastery. That's what we're going to be talking about today. 6 steps that you can do to instantly earn $30,000 or more on your next deal. Discover the hidden barriers stopping you from sealing the deal and pocketing thousands of dollars. And that's per deal, while making sellers feel safe, heard, and eager to say yes. So we're going to talk about that. This is something that most people don't talk about. It's the seller psychology and how to deal with sellers to get them to say yes to your offer and win them over with buying their property. So this is very important stuff. This is going to make a big difference in your business. So pay attention to this entire video. If you don't want to watch it, this video is about 30 minutes long. If you don't want to watch it for 30 minutes, you can put it on time and a half or even double time and cut the time down with watching the video. But make sure you get all of this information because it's going to be very good. And we're going to show you how you can use seller psychology to make more money. Okay, so let's get started. Why do we care what sellers think? Why do we care what the seller thinks? A lot of people are looking at it like, look, I just want to make the deal. I just want to make the money. It doesn't matter about the seller, but there's some key reasons why this matters and why we've learned to focus on what the seller thinks and how they're going about doing business with us. Sellers are often unsure, defensive, and afraid of being scammed. If they get something that says, hey, we buy houses, they're usually nervous about it. They don't want to get taken advantage of. And some of your best sellers will be people that are older. They maybe are not as internet savvy or they're not as comfortable with computers. So they might not feel they just might not feel okay with talking to someone about their house. After all, for a lot of older people and even younger people at this point, your house is your biggest investment. It's the biggest thing that you've ever put money into. It's what you care about most, so it makes a big deal. They don't want to be taken advantage of, and they want to feel safe. So it is our job to make them feel safe and make them feel that this is a comfortable space so that they can conduct business. Think about it if you went into a car dealership and the car dealership had a bunch of seedy looking guys all around, and it looked like it wasn't very clean, and everything seemed kind of like out of place. It just wouldn't make you feel safe about coming in and giving them a check for a large amount of money. And so that would make a big difference to a lot of people about how they spend their money. So you want to always be safe when you're talking to sellers and working with sellers. You want to always make them feel safe. Okay. So that's one of the other big things. By mastering seller psychology, you prevent deals from falling apart later. Now, if you've been a wholesaler, if you've been somebody who's wholesale deals before, you probably have looked at things and kind of been thinking like, hey, I got a deal, only for later on the deal to fall apart and people to not see the deal or not be able to get the deal will fall apart. You're thinking that you're ready to go. You're thinking that you're moving forward. And then they'll come back and say, oh, I'm not doing the deal. I've changed my mind or something like that. And it can really, really frustrate you as an investor, especially when you're wholesaling and you put all this work in. The reason that happens, we're going to discuss, and that's how this psychology comes into play because of you not taking care of the seller's mental needs. And I know that sounds weird, but this is a very real thing. Set the tone. This is the number one key to bigger profits. How you get on this phone. And I'm not talking about going to visit the seller. I am literally talking about when you are talking to a seller on the phone, every interaction that you have with the seller, you need to set a tone, and that tone is going to help you be successful and get through the entire deal. So let's get into that. So there are 6 barriers that we look at that will stop you from finishing a deal and will stop money from hitting your pockets. And so we're going to talk about these 6 barriers. And the 6 barriers are: one, you have to pique their curiosity. You have to get sellers to be curious about why they should deal with you. You got to get them interested in why they should deal with you. Number two is building trust. You want to build trust quickly with the seller so that they feel comfortable doing business with you. People do business with people they trust, and you have to do that in a very short time. We're going to talk about that. Number three is give them control. People don't like to be told what to do. People like to have someone let them make the decision or come to the conclusion of what they need to do. So, in other words, if I tell you to buy this thing, you're not really likely to listen to me if I say buy this thing. But if I give you all the benefits of buying this thing, if I tell you how low the price is and how right now this is a deal, then you'll come to the conclusion of, oh, okay, well then, yeah, I want to buy that thing because, and you came to it your own on yourself. So you want to give them control. I'm going to talk about that. Next is get them talking. Getting people to talk is one of the best ways to get them to trust you. So we're going to talk about how to get them talking. Next, we're going to talk about planting the seed. This is probably the most important barrier that you have to overcome that most people fail at, and we'll go into that in just a second. And then finally, we're going to talk about, are you sure? Final reassurance, because once the deal is done, it's really not done. You still have to be assured, and you have to give them final reassurance, and we'll talk about that. Okay? These are the steps to making sellers feel safe and motivated to work with you. And this will ultimately make you more money, because as the sellers feel more comfortable with you, they'll be more likely to say, okay, well, I would rather, even though the other guy might be offering me more money, I would rather do business with you. And before you say to me, Art, that never happens, they always go with the guy with the most money. I can tell you for a fact that there are all kinds of times when sellers will literally take our number, even though it's lower than what someone else is offering, because they feel more comfortable with us. Think about that shady car dealership that I talked about. When you go in there and it's all seedy and scary, and they say, yeah, we'll charge you this much. And then I'm saying I'm charging you a little bit more, but you like my place. It's very clean and neat, and you feel comfortable there. You'll pay the extra money for the experience. And that's what it is with sellers. So let's talk about barrier number one, piquing curiosity. When someone is curious, they are likely to stay engaged. You got to grab their attention from the start. So here's the thing. Sellers often have a preconceived notion that when they're calling a place that says we buy houses cash or we buy houses fast or any of those things, they're thinking it's going to be a quick offer and fast cash. So they're thinking that they're going to call, hey, this is John. My address is 123 Main Street. How much are you offering me for my house? And they think they're going to get a quick offer, and they're just going to say, well, it's going to be low, but it'll be a quick offer. You have to break that process. Show them that there's more to the process, spark their interest so they want to know more. That is your job on the phone. Your job is not to give them an offer on the house initially. Your job is to get them curious and slow them down some so they can get to know you and get comfortable with the process. So you have to pique their curiosity to do that. You can use teaser questions or surprising insights about market conditions to keep them engaged. So teaser questions are things about, what do you think how do you think your area is doing? Things like that. Or what do you think? In other words, questions that get them to talking, teaser questions that maybe not so much small talk. I don't want to do small talk with the seller, but I do want to ask questions that are very easy softball questions. Things like, hey, so what do you think the house is worth right now? That's a great question because it gets them talking. Why do you think it's worth that much? Well, talk to me about what kind of work the house needs. Does it need repairs? And those are questions to get them talking. They're very easy to answer. They know a lot about it, and it'll get them to unveiling their thoughts. You can also give surprising insights about market conditions. So we've said things like, oh, we bought a property over in that area just recently. And then we'll tell them the address and say, yeah, we did a property over there. The guy that sold it was a great guy. And that builds trust because someone in their area sold their property or bought a property with them. Now, I'm not going to lie to them and say that if we didn't do it, but if we do business in a lot of the same areas, it's not impossible for us to have bought a property in that area. So barrier number two, building trust. How do you build trust with sellers? You have to make the seller feel safe. That is the key thing. Sellers are people first. We a lot of times are looking at sellers as a check, as a cash flow, as a whatever, a deal. They are people first. And think about how you want to react or interact with people when you're talking to a salesperson or anything like that. They want to connect with the real person, not just the company. So if your company is XYZ House Solutions, they don't want to talk to XYZ House Solutions. They want to talk to Cindy, or they want to talk to Steve, or they want to talk to Mark. They want to talk to a person, because when they call back or when they think or they have a question, they want to say, "Oh, I talked to Mark. I really like Mark. Where's he at?" They're not going to say anybody in XYZ company can answer my question. So you want to talk to them as a person, build trust. Share a brief story, a credential, or client success to demonstrate credibility. So a lot of times when we're talking to them, they might say something that triggers with us about a story, about a deal we did recently, or maybe a credential. Well, we do this like that other people don't do, or client success. Well, we had a client that's recently sold 3 houses to us. So if you got a portfolio of houses, we can definitely talk to you about that. So these are things that are going to build trust and build credibility, and they make you seem like a real person. They make you seem like a real person, not just a company, and they don't feel like just a number to you. So it'll build trust. Encourage them to ask questions and be transparent. They are going to have some questions, especially as you go deeper into this process. The way we do our process, we answer a lot of those questions in our initial conversation, but encourage them to ask questions along the way. I will frequently say, does that make sense to you? Do you have any questions about that? Can I explain that a little bit better for you? Do you understand everything? That just gets them to know that you're listening to them and that you want them to be heard. Trust is earned by demonstrating honesty and empathy. When you are talking to sellers, you should not lie. And I'm going to say that again because that's important. When you are talking to sellers, you should not lie. Now, why would I say that? Because some people feel that they have to puff out their chest and they have to show how valuable they are when they're talking to a seller. And the truth of the matter is, you don't have to do that. In fact, when you lie or when you make up stuff or embellish your story, a lot of times you distance yourself from sellers because they feel like that doesn't sound right, or they're going to be kind of a pause. So lies don't usually go over as well, and then you have to remember the lies, and you might be talking to this person 2 or 3 times. So that's something you very much got to watch out for. Now, another thing is barrier number 3: give them control. What do I mean by give them control? Let's talk about that. Empower the seller. Let them control certain aspects of your conversation. Ask the seller what they want first. What's their price that they want? What's the timeline? What's the ideal scenario for them? What would they like to happen in this transaction? The reason you ask that is because by asking those specific questions, it'll let you frame your offer and your questions around what they want to do. So if I've got a landlord that wants to sell a rental property because he's tired of being a landlord and he wants out. He's older. I just want out of rental property. Am I going to tell him how, yeah, we're going to take it and rent it out again so we can do, we're not, am I going to talk about, I'm going to focus on the benefits of getting rid of the property for landlording. Yeah, the landlord landscape out here is really tough, and I completely understand that. And it makes sense to get out of it. Now, especially is your tenant being difficult? Oh, wow, that's really bad. And those kind of questions and that conversation will get them to talking and feel more comfortable. Repeat or rephrase what they say to show you understand. So one of the best, have you ever heard the saying, what is the saying? The saying is duplication or copying is the best form of flattery. I'm getting it wrong, but it's, copying someone is the best form of flattery. People love it when you copy them or repeat them because it makes them feel like you're hearing them. So for example, if I say to a seller, what kind of work do you think the house needs? And he says, oh, the kitchen needs to be remodeled and the bathroom needs to be remodeled. I'm not going to say, okay, so then and go on to my next question. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, so you're saying the kitchen needs remodeling and the bathroom needs remodeling. Okay, all right. And how much do you think it would cost to do that? Or what kind of repairs would you say they need? That kind of thing. Because I repeated it to them, they feel that, okay, I'm engaged in the conversation, and they feel that they can trust me, and they builds trust. So this is all part of, and these are little things. I'm not telling you anything that's mind blowing, but it makes a huge difference when you're talking to sellers, and it's going to translate into more money. Let them feel it's their idea to move forward, not yours alone. So as we're talking, then I'll say, okay, we'll get to the next question or whatever. But one of the things that I like to do is, does that make sense to you? I want to make sure you understand that before I move forward. Do you want to move forward from here? and asking them those kind of questions. Yes, I get that. Let's go ahead. Let's keep going. All right, I'm not taking too long, am I? I just got a few more questions. And I get them talking and feeling comfortable because I'm asking them and they feel they're in control. Do they want to move forward? This is going to help you make them comfortable. Okay. Now, barrier number 4, get them talking. Get them talking is one of your strongest tools. Listen more than you speak. Okay. Use open-ended questions. Tell me about what kind of repairs the property needs. You can't answer that with a yes or no. That's an open-ended question. They're going to have to talk about it. Tell me about, so you want this much for the house. Tell me about, where did you get that number from? That gets them to talking. Everything that gets them to talking builds trust. And here's the secret about it. They will drop hints about their motivations, their problems, what they're stuck on, and you can use that information if you pay attention. They reveal motivation and hidden pain points if you listen carefully. This is just a part of talking to sellers. They will give more information as they feel more comfortable, and sometimes even say things that they probably shouldn't have said. I've even had sellers get on a call with me and they'll say, I want $150,000 for the house, or $300,000, or whatever they want for the house. And then we'll talk for a while and they'll get to talking and they'll say, you know what? I'm really just so tired of this property. I'm so tired of dealing with it. You know, if I could, if I just get at least this, I'm out of here. And they'll literally tell me that, not realizing that they're giving away their secrets and telling me about what they're willing to take. Knowing the real reason they want to sell is your key to structuring a win-win offer. Most of the sellers we talk to are not selling because they want the most money. When you call somebody that says we buy houses, or when you call somebody that's an investment company, you understand you're probably not getting the top dollar for the property, and that's okay. But if you solve their issue, a lot of people have a bigger issue than getting the max amount of money out of a house. And if you solve their issue, you are more valuable to them than somebody who just pays them more money, if that makes sense. I know that sounds weird, but I guarantee you there are people that the maximum amount of money is not the biggest reason for them to sell their property. And the more they talk, the more you can get to know that, and you can talk and frame your conversation and your answer, your solution, your offer around solving their problem. Number 5, this is a big one. Plant the seed. Subtly introduce your offer. So when I talk to a seller, I am never going to say, okay, you got a house at 123 Main Street. We're going to offer you this much. That is not the way to do it. You want to present your offer at the end of the conversation. Once you've built a rapport, once you've talked to them, you discuss the property and their situation, you've got a good understanding of what's going on. Now I want to present an offer to them. And the way I present that offer is I'm going to talk to them, and I'm not going to throw it out as a hard ball. What do I mean by that? A hard ball is here's my offer. Instead, I'm going to throw it out kind of as a subtle jab. Like, let's see what you say. I'm not saying that I can, but if we were able to give you X, is that something, or is that a price that you would look at? Is that something you would look at selling at that price? And the reason I do that is because I gave them a soft way to say yes or no. So if they say, I would think about that, or maybe, then we're close. Okay, well, what would it take? And you can go in with your conversation. I don't want to come at them very hard. I want to come with them almost like I don't know that we can do this, but let's talk about it if we get to here, blah, blah. You want to kind of softly introduce the conversation, okay? Keep the door open. About 60% or more of your sellers are going to say no initially to your offer. But one of the things I do is I never say, okay, well, sorry, we couldn't buy your house. Talk to you later. They still have exactly what we want, and we've identified what they have and everything else. So I'm going to always leave the door open. If you're not ready now, let's circle back soon. And I'm going to make sure I follow up with them, because that is a way to keep the door open, keep them, because sometimes people need to think about it, but they're not going to say, I need to think about it. They're going to say no, and then maybe think about it later on. And I want to let them know that they have the right and make it easy for them to come back and talk to us. Here, you can also hint at urgency, and I do this all the time. We can't guarantee this same offer will be available later. That's a little jab just to let them know that, hey, just because you got this offer today does not mean that you will have this offer tomorrow. There's a saying that today's price is not yesterday's price is not today's price. You cannot guarantee that this number is going to stick. So if you're thinking about it, if it's close, I would take this number so we can go ahead and move forward rather than wait and hope it gets better later. Number 6, are you sure? Are you sure? Double check their comfort level. So once we talk to them, see, one of the big things is when people agree, some people agree just out of, I don't know what you call it, common courtesy. Some people will literally be like, okay, yeah, I think I can do that. And then they'll never, and then what they'll do is they'll ghost you. They'll never call you back. They'll never answer the phone again. And they just don't want to say no because they're not comfortable. And so what we do is we double check their comfort level by asking things like, does this feel right to you? Do you feel okay with this? Are you sure these numbers make sense for you? Then, and I'm not saying I can go higher, but I'm saying, are you sure that you're okay with these numbers? Are you sure we've got a deal? You want to reassure them and get their, see where their gauge their temperature. Are they like, yes, let's move forward? Nah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm okay with it. And, that kind of thing. I want to gauge them. This step flushes out final objections because believe me, some people have objections that they're not going to share. So you want to talk to them and find out later and say, hey, are you sure this is okay? And then they'll say, yeah, but I'm kind of worried about the taxes or I'm kind of worried about this. And they'll talk to you about what their real issue is and you can address it. Because if you don't address it, even though they said yes, you don't really have a deal. And that's for you wholesalers because a lot of you all, this is going to fall apart with. Now, I'm not a big fan of wholesaling because one, it is a grind and it's not enough money for a grind. But these practices work with wholesaling. But if I were you, I would look at quick turning as soon as possible because it's a much more lucrative business model and it does not take much more work. In fact, it probably takes less work than what you're doing as a wholesaler. You're giving them a chance to voice concerns and reaffirm their yes. You will be able to tell when you ask them again if they're sure. If they give you a hem and a haw yes, yeah, I guess I'm, then it's not. And you need to talk to them more about what's really bothering them. If they are good and they say, yep, I'm good, this makes sense for me, I'm good with it, then you know that you're good with an answer and you can move forward. Okay. Follow up. Follow up is the most important piece. It's not one of the barriers, but I put it in here because consistent contact gets consistent wins. Most people will change their mind, and they're getting, because remember, once they talk to you, if you say, "Okay, I've got a deal, I'm going to keep moving and do what I got to do," and leave them alone, if they don't hear from you, they'll start to think that maybe this wasn't a real deal. Maybe they're no longer interested. Maybe they're not going to buy my house. You need to keep them in the loop if they say yes about what's going on. Hey, I'm ordering title. Hey, this, that, and the other. Whatever you're doing, keep them in the loop. At the other end of the spectrum, if they say no, I want to follow up with them. I want to follow up with them because just because they said no today, that means they weren't motivated at that number today. Does not mean they won't be motivated tomorrow at that number. So I want to follow up with them on a regular schedule so that I can, when they're ready, we can get the deal going. Okay. Time changes circumstances. Today's no can become tomorrow's yes. And this is a very, very true statement. I had sellers that have told me no numerous times, and then we keep following up with them. And then one day they just said, you know what? Okay, yes, I'm going to sell my property to you. And we got the property. And here's the thing, let's say on that property, we're going to make $50,000. Is there a time like I need the $50,000 today? Is there a time in 3 months where I won't need the 50,000? Is there a time in 6 months where I won't need the 50,000? No, you need the 50,000 whenever you get it. So what do you care? If they say yes today, that's great. If they say yes next week, that's great. If they say yes 3 months from now, that's great. The yes is the most important part. So it doesn't matter when they say it. Don't let fear of bothering them stop you from following up. Now, I'm sure some people are on here and they're saying, oh, I don't want to bother people. I don't want to call them too much. Don't let that, listen, let them tell you to stop calling me. And even then, I'm not going to take them off my list. I'm going to keep them on my list until they either die or that property sells, because literally they will tell you no and then turn around and 2 weeks from now say yes. And they told you to leave them alone and stop bothering them. So don't let fear of bothering them stop you from following up. Now, I'm not saying be a crazy stalker and call them every day or anything like that, because that is creepy. But on a reasonable timeline, calling them back at regular intervals, there's nothing wrong with that. So I've got a couple of things for you. If you are just starting out, if you have never done a deal before, If you have never made any money with real estate and you're like, hey, I want to get started, but I don't know where to start, I don't know what to do, and you're thinking that, I want to learn more, but I'm not really sure, then let's talk about it, because join our paid content community. We have a paid content community where we literally teach you specific training about doing your first deal. Okay. And what the goal of that training in that community is to get you to your first deal so you can make some money and you can actually see some results. And that's the goal. We have exclusive content and training to get you to your first high profit deal. I dropped a link in the comments section. This is great for new investors with limited resources looking to get started right away. I know that a lot of you have probably been on a live training and someone said, join my mastermind, join my thing, spend all this money up front. Well, sometimes you don't have all that up front and you still are eager to get started. This is a great way for you to get started at a very reasonable number. It's not going to break the bank, and you can learn and start getting comfortable with it and take action. And we'll have calls and hold you accountable. It's great. It's a great way for you to get started, even on a limited budget. You can learn more at our community at school.com/findandfun/about. I put it in the chat, but that's a great way to check us out and learn what we are all about. Now, let's say you're not really feeling the community. You want to get started building a business. You've got some resources. You're ready to get started. Well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about next steps. Jump on a call with us. We'll talk about what your next steps can be, what it looks like, what are your goals, what do you want to do, how can we help? Our process is very structured. It goes from never done a deal, doing your first deal, making some money, doing consistent deals, making consistent money from buying and selling houses quickly, and then eventually going to buying commercial property and building a legacy business and building something that has huge growth. And so because we're structured, we can kind of help you wherever you are in that process. We will give you access to some of our exclusive training after our call. So we have some trainings that we don't release to everybody. Once you get on a call and we have a better idea of where you're at, we'll give you some trainings, and it's free. It's free just to see what we're about and to learn how our process is valuable and how it can help you. Okay. So I'm going to put the link to the community. I'm sorry, to a call in the chat. And you can, if you want to set up a call, then set up a call. If you haven't set up a call with us, then by all means talk to us. If you have set up a call and you've got more questions or you're not sure, then join the community and we'll answer questions. We can talk to you about deals, all kinds of stuff. So it's a great way to get going and get growing from that point forward. All right. So I hope you guys have gotten something out of this. I hope it's helped you. Seller psychology is going to not get you the deal per se, but it's going to keep the deals that you get. So that if you're somebody where the deals fall apart, this is stuff you need to know so that the deals don't fall apart for you. Okay. Now, I hope to see you all on the next week's call, and we will see you on next week's call. So I look forward to working with you. I look forward to talking to you guys. Hopefully, I'll see you in the community, and see you soon. All right. Happy hunting, guys. Talk to you later.